rhythm of change. This is the sound of redemption. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. Igniting the fire within you. Exalting the melody of freedom. These are the things that will bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Down, down, down.
Let me tell you, it's in the air. Joy is in the air. Love is in the air. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Don't sleep on it, brother. You might get left, sister. Can you feel it? What it feel like? Freedom. What it feel like? Justice. No need to be counted, cause I am down. Down, down, down. Down, down, down. Down for the end of racism, for the end of bigotry, cause I am down. For the end of misogyny, that's right. For all the isms out there, just down, down, down. Let's bring it down. Rise up, people. No more foolishness, and let's bring it way down.
Riding the river of change into the cries of contrition. This is the way that we bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. We are the children of Eden, dancing and celebrating freedom. We are the ones that must bring it down. Down, down, 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 down. So gather the faithful. Tell everyone to stand and shout loud. Shout loud. Shout loud. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it down, down. Let's bring it down. Let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down. We've got to bring it down. Down. Stand up and shout. Stand up and shout. Rise together.
Accountability starts now. The Eric Dawson Radio Show.
Yeah. Rise up. Stand up, shout it loud.
If you are not prepared to come to that table and to represent that voice, don't come. Because we don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. We don't need black faces that don't want to be a black voice. We don't need Muslims that don't want to be a Muslim voice. We don't need queers that don't want to be a queer voice. And if you're worried about being marginalized and stereotyped, please don't even show up.
to find.
We've got to find a better way. We can't go this way. No, no, no. Go this way. We can't go this way. Whoa, we've got to find a better way. We can't continue to ignore the fact people are dying every day from using cocaine and crack. Even got a new drug, and it's called ice. If you take it, you will surely lose your life. I tell you, we can't. Go this way. We're losing our children every day. We've got to find a better way. We can't continue to just turn our heads while people are lying in the street using it for a bed. The only time that you should look down on a man is when you're reaching down to give him a helping hand. I tell you, we can't. Oh, we can't. It's a dangerous game we play. We've got to find a better way. These problems you say are nothing new. The question in your mind is, what are we going to do? 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 and 4 is 8. The answer is very simple. I'll tell you what it takes. Accept God's gift, His only begotten Son. When you receive Him, you start to love everyone. This is the answer for the world today. People, can't you see that love is the only way? Yes. No, no, this way. We've got to find. We've got to find. Sisters and brothers, regardless of the color, we've got to learn to love one another. Tell the people in the street, even the police walking their beat. We've got to find. Yes, we've got to find a better way.
Down, down, down. Tear it all down. Tear it all down.
When will it go? When will it stop?
Uh,
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
I think I'm coming down off my high from vacation, so I need another couple of days to pull myself together. slow this morning.
Yeah, you know what, Diane? I was disturbed by yesterday's conversation that we had. I mean, just and we'll revisit it.
Education? You mean regarding education?
Just this, the true state of Black America, Black Americans, right? But that video, well, I don't know who compiled the video, but the song was a song that was written in 1994 by Commander Forbes, the brother of the late Bishop Ellen Forbes, who founded Faith Temple Number 2 in East Orange. And about a year or so ago, he had a street dedicated in his name. But what we're going to have is Commander Forbes is going to call in, and he's going to talk about a lot of things, right? He was a good friend of my dad's. You know what? I got to tell you, I don't even know Commander's actual name. I don't think on his birth certificate, Diane, it's Commander, but everybody calls him Commander. Like literally, everybody calls him Commander. And so he's going to call in, and we're going to have a conversation. And not only him, but his band members are going to call in.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a conversation about that because I'm interested, right? He's my dad's age, and like I said, they wrote and performed that in 1994.
Right.
I got some questions.
And those are the same things we're still dealing with today.
Diane, you could take that song.
It's very interesting to see what he's thinking about as of then to now, what he sees as being progressive or not being progressive and change.
Right. And what brought the song to the forefront is CNN actually contacted them because they wanted to play that song in a segment that they did. They heard it somewhere and they thought it was so relevant, so poignant to what's going on right now that CNN actually called them and asked for permission to play that song. So we're going to have a conversation about that. But Diane, oh gosh, I was exhausted after yesterday's show, and I got to tell you, it is frightening to see the level of paralysis that exists in the Black community with all of these issues. All of them, like literally, are just upon us now. All of them, and nobody is doing it. I mean, environmental racism, is prevalent. We saw it. It played out on national television, Diane. And then beyond that, with the water crises that not just in Newark, but in other urban communities. Then you had this pandemic that rolled up behind it, right? And they said, you know what? Because of how Black Americans have lived, because of how Black Americans have been treated, Black Americans are now dying of this thing at a greater rate. And then they're literally, I didn't hear peep. I didn't hear peep. I didn't hear pin drop about it. We just went on with life is normal, and now, Diane, we're facing a major crisis when it comes to this school stuff. A major crisis. And here's the thing for me. You just had Board of Education elections in East Orange. You just had Board of Education elections in Newark, right? Have you heard a single word from any of them? Nothing. And so now, when people tell me, specifically Eric, oh, you're asking their qualifications, and then you get they live in Newark, or they're 18. I said, no, I'm not asking if they meet the requirements, right? The requirements to me are different than the qualifications. See, The requirement is that you're 18. The requirement is that you live in the jurisdiction. The requirement all of these things. And those are like the very baseline things, right? So now when you get beyond that, the question is, what are your bona fides? What is it that you have that will allow the school system to flourish so that these children don't suffer anymore under abject failure? That's what I'm asking when I say, what the hell are your qualifications?
Right.
Right?
You bring it to the table. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we, in many towns and communities, we allow people to get into these positions, and we don't complain until after they're in the position. But when you have the opportunity to stop it, when elections come around, people are silent. It's the same thing that happened with the primaries. People complain so much about Cory Booker. People don't even know where Donald Payne Jr. is, but yet they voted for him again. So it's hard to say that you want to do better when you keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And these folks, they have done nothing. Nothing. Cory Booker left Newark in the shitter. Fact. Fact, fact, fact. And then the dashiki wearing Ras Baraka, well, now he doesn't. He wears like some well-fitted suits and, and I think Johnson and Murphy shoes. Right? All right. But when he was out there, with the scruffy beard and all that kind of stuff, and he was holding all those people accountable. But now those people writing checks to his re-election fund. And so he has nothing else to say about them. Nothing. And you all defend them at the detriment of your children. You defend them. What kind of people are you? What kind of people are you? Diane, and then you know what? The aftermath of this, we'll see in 10 years. And then guess what? When these children are uneducated, undereducated, underperforming, unable to get competitive jobs, then we'll wag our fingers at them. Right? We'll call them hoodlums. We'll call them savages. We'll call them a whole bunch of things. But when we had an opportunity to stand up and defend and fight for them, we did nothing. So before you begin to wag your finger at them, wag it at yourself. Don't know. Maybe we can. Well, we can't. We can't survive this way. So can we go on this way? I guess until we fall off the cliff, we can. But we won't be around long going this way. The data shows it. So I don't know what. Okay, got it. So Diane says she'll connect back. She's got some things to take care of. So I don't, guys. What's the next step? What is the next step? Because like Diane said, in the primary, we took the wrong step again. What's the next step? The coronavirus. I was on the phone with somebody earlier today, and they were talking about how the teachers union now is involved and is pushing for distance learning for the teachers. It's all being politicized now, right? And that you have suburban parents, white parents in particular, who are stepping forward and they're challenging a lot of what's going on. My understanding is some of them are even saying, well, wait a minute, if you're going to do this, then we don't want to pay taxes. Right? When you consider the amount of taxes that goes towards education, and you're ending that for now, maybe. Well, we don't want to pay that. We want to take that money, give us a voucher. Let us go and hire somebody to take care of our child. But these are white parents that are doing this, not black parents. White parents are fighting for their children, fighting to ensure that their children maintain their status, their current status here in this country. And black folks are doing nothing. Doing absolutely nothing. Like I said, and I don't want to get too deep into this yet, because we have, I think this may be them. We have Commander Forbes and his band members gonna be calling in a few minutes, so I don't want to go too far down this hole, but we'll get back to it. Hello, caller, go.
Yeah, this is Mel Forbes. I called in early.
Oh,
This
hey.
is Mel, yeah, I called in early because I'm just one of those kind of guys that called in before time. But you need me to call back later?
No. Listen, man. You know what? See, I like that. See, you make sure that you cover your bases, right? In case there was some
Yes,
sort of
sir.
glitch, right? You call in early, make
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
everything's. See, I absolutely respect that, sir. How are you?
Thank you. Name good. I'm fine. And your name is?
Eric Dawson.
Oh, Mr. Dawson. How are you, sir?
Eric is fine. I'm good. My grandfather
Hey,
was Mr. Dawson.
All right. Well, thank you for having us on on your show. There, you're in New Jersey. Is that where you are?
I am in New Jersey. You're calling from South Carolina?
I'm actually in Maryland.
Oh, you're in Maryland. Okay. All right.
So what you're gonna have?
Oh,
You're gonna have.
I think we got another. I think.
Atlanta.
Yep. I think we have another one calling in. Hold on.
Show there. You're in
Hel-
New Jersey. Is that where? I am in New Jersey.
Hello?
You're calling from South Carolina? Hello.
Yep. I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask you to
Okay.
hold on.
I think we got another. I think we have another one calling in. Hold on.
I'm gonna ask you to mute your phone though. Hello. Uh-oh. I don't know why. It's not allowing me to merge the calls.
Hello.
Yep. Hold on one second. I'm not sure why it's not allowing me to merge the calls. Is this Commander? Hello?
Actually, this is Mel.
Okay, this is Melvin. Hold on.
I don't know why. It's not allowing me to
Hello?
make the calls.
Hello?
Yes, Commander Forbes.
Commander, I'm gonna ask you to mute your phone because I can hear me talking on your phone. So you have the show playing on your phone. You have to mute that. But Commander, for whatever reason, it's not allowing me to merge. It's not allowing me to merge the calls. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you would give each of them. I don't want to give my phone number out, my personal number out on the show. But if you would just call them and give them my personal number, have them all call on that number, and then I should be able to merge it without a problem.
Gotcha.
All right. So don't call in on the show number. Give them all my personal number and have them call in, and I'll see if I can merge it that way.
Gotcha.
All right. All right. So we're gonna try to get this together. I got this third-party app called Sideline, which was supposed to allow me to connect phones, and typically it works, right? I mean, we have no problem when other folks call during the show. Every now and again, we get a delay. So hopefully they'll all call back. So that was Melvin and that was Commander. They're brothers. And then there are two more that are folks who are going to call in. So let's see if we can get this. Hello? Hello?
Good morning, sir. How are you? Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Who do I have on the line?
This is Scott Forbes down here in the state of Maryland from the original Singing Sun.
All right. So I'm waiting for Melvin and I'm waiting for Commander to call back. I gave them a different number to call in on. So you hang in on this number and let's see what we get. Hello? Hello?
Mr. Dawson, you lost me there for a second. Do you need a bridge number to call us to call in, or are you good?
Well, I'm trying to. I have a number, and for whatever reason, it's not allowing me to merge the calls. Typically, during my show, I can get up to 7 calls and merge them all. I can't. I can't seem to do that. Do you have a bridge number that you guys can call in? Okay, and then. Okay, so do that, and then you'll call in on one number.
Yeah, we'll call in one number. You want me to?
If you would coordinate that. If you would coordinate that, then I'll wait for you. But in the meantime, I'm gonna play your song again, and then we'll get this going online.
Hold on, Mr. Man. I got you.
All right, guys. I'm not sure what's happening, but I want you guys to hang in because this is going to be a fantastic segment of the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to play. Again, they weren't responsible for the video. I don't know who put the video portion of that together to accompany the song, but I think it was well done. But we'll ask them when they get back on. But here is the Singing Sons singing "We Can't Go On This Way." And then when we get finished with this, hopefully I'll have them on a bridge call and they'll all be online. Hold on for 1 second, guys. Let's see if we can get it playing.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
We can't go on this way.
We can't go on.
We can't go on this way.
We can't go on.
No, we can't go on this way.
We've got to find.
We've got to find a better way. We can't go on this way. No, no, no. Oh, we've got to find a better way. We can't continue to ignore the fact people are dying every day from using cocaine and crack. Even got a new drug, and it's called ice. If you take it, you will surely lose your life. I tell you, we can't. We can't go on this way. We can't go on this way. We're losing our children every day. We've got to find a better way.
We can't continue to just turn our heads while people are lying in the street using it for a bed. The only time that you should look down on a man is when you're reaching down to give him a helping hand. I tell you we can't. Oh, we can't. It's a dangerous game we play. We've got to find a better way. These problems you say are nothing new. The question in your mind is, what are we going to do? 2 + 2 is 4, and 4 and 4 is 8. The answer is very simple. I'll tell you what it takes. Accept God's gift, His only begotten Son. When you receive Him, you start to love everyone. This is the answer for the world today. People, can't you see that love is the only way? Yes. No, no, this way. We've got to find. We've got to find. Sisters and brothers, regardless of the color, we've got to learn to love one another. Tell the people in the street, even the police walking their beat. We've got to find. Yes, we've got to find a better way.
From bearing with us as we work through the technical difficulties. But we got everybody on the line. We got the original Singing Sons on the line. How many of you? 4? Hello.
Yes.
So are there 4 of you? And then we have Diane on the phone as well, right? So could you announce who you are?
This is John Clark, the original Singing Sons. This is Melvin Forbes. This is Scott Amanda Forbes.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's 4, right? I thought I heard Scott.
Yes.
Okay. So I think I know 2 of you, right? I certainly know Commander.
Yeah, you do. You know 2 of them.
I know 2 of you. And I've had the pleasure of hearing both of you sing. Not this song, but at the Men's Day, got an opportunity to hear you sing. And quite pleasant voices, I gotta say. So welcome to the show, gentlemen. Commander. So when we talked, you called me and you told me about this song that you guys wrote and composed. Is that correct?
Yeah, my brother Melvin wrote the song in 94. Well, maybe before 94, but we recorded it in 94. And my first cousin, John Clark, put the music to it.
Okay, so Melvin wrote it. Uh, John put the music to it, and you all put your beautiful voices to it. And so, what was the inspiration, Melvin, of writing that song in 19? Well, when did you write it in '94? You wrote it prior to.
Yeah, I think it was 94. I do recall because at that time I was flying to Sacramento, California, and my nephew had been attacked by some people here in Maryland, and I went to the hospital to see him. And he was all swollen up and beat up by about 5 guys for, to this day, we don't even know why. And I was so depressed, I had to catch a flight from Dulles Airport, and as I got on the plane and started to fly, for some reason, other than I think it had to be the Spirit of God, because there was no other reason, I picked out took a pen out of my case, and I started to write the words that said, "We can't go on this way. Got to find a better way." And by the time I landed in Sacramento, California, I had penned the song.
And that was in '94.
Yeah. That was in 94.
And now it has resurfaced all these years later. My understanding, Commander, is that it was played on one of the news networks. Is that correct?
Yes, I didn't hear it myself, but I was told by a good classmate of mine that she heard it on CNN. That's correct. That's correct. It was on CNN.
It was on CNN. And what was the context, if you know, that it was played in?
They were showing the George Floyd murder at the time.
So in 2020,
they were reporting on.
So in 2020, they took a song that was written in '94, and they thought the lyrics were relatable to what was going on in 2020.
Well, if you listen to the words of the songs, it talks about the problems of the world, and it could have been really any time, but more importantly, it gave a solution at the end of the song, and I think that was the appeal to them, that it didn't just list and talk about problems that were relevant to the day, but more importantly, gave a solution. Absolutely.
And that solution is to love one another.
The end of the song says, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's to love one another.
Well, yeah. Well, the last verse says, "These problems you say are nothing new. The question in your mind is, what are we going to do?"
Right.
2 + 2 is 4. 4 and 4 is 8. The answer is very simple. I'll tell you what it takes. Accept God's gift, His only begotten Son. When you receive Him, you start to what? Love everyone. Love is the answer for the world today. People, can't you see, love is the only way. We can't go on this way. Amen.
How do we get there? I mean, how, you look through history, though, at least if we're talking about the history of this country, and we're talking about the history of Black Americans in this country, the history of American descendants of enslaved Africans in this country. It has been a brutal history. It has been a violent history. And it has been one that has gone on for over 400 years in this country. And I'm 57 years old. I'm literally at wit's end. And so I don't know. I mean, I listened to the song several times. I saw the video or the the montage that accompanied it, going all the way back to Rodney King up into today, right, where there were people with masks on because of the pandemic. I I don't know. I mean, is it praying our way through it?
Well, there is, if you believe, I believe there's a solution to every problem. And let me tell you the basis of my comment. If you believe in science, science says what goes up must come down, according to the law of relativity. If you believe in karma, karma says what goes around comes around. But if you believe in God, God said you reap what you sow. So there's a solution for every problem. We've not had this kind of problem facing us like we're facing before because we've never been here before. But others have gone through, as a country, as America. Listen, Africa is my motherland. America is my homeland. So, God bless America. My point being is, everything that is wrong with America can be fixed by everything that is right with America if those who know right will stand up for what's right. Because when you stand up for what's right, you can never be wrong.
Well, in principle, I agree. But on this show, we lay out, clear reasons why the folks won't stand up, because they're the beneficiaries of a brutal system that has put them at the top, and so they don't have an impetus to remove themselves from being at the top, and so that fight goes on to keep Black Americans and others, right, if necessary, lesser than, and this whole system came about through brutal tactics. And so again, when I listen to the lyrics, when I listen to the words, and I watch the video that accompanied it, I agree. We can't survive this way. But there's certainly folks who want it to continue to go on the way that it's going on. The status quo is beneficial to them.
Okay, let me ask those who are not speaking to put your phones on mute, because we're getting a lot of background noise, Mr. Dodson, so I can't oftentimes hear you breaking up. So when we're not speaking, put your phone on mute, and that way it'll be a lot clearer. So, what was your question again, sir?
Well, my statement is, we recognize we can't go on this way. I'm talking
Right.
about as a Black American, right? I don't
Right.
want to go on this way. I don't want to have
Right.
to lecture to my grandson the way I've had to lecture to my son about driving while Black, right? I don't want to lecture to my grandson the way I lectured to my son about how to conduct himself in a brutal America. I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to go on that way. But there are those who are benefiting from the current system, and so they continue to prop that system up for fear that they may no longer benefit from it. So though we look and say we can't go on this way, I understand at the end of the song, you offer a solution, but and if that is the solution, there are people who are not heeding it.
Yeah, well, listen, and I'm gonna let my brothers jump in, but let me set the platform for you. There's nothing new under the sun. It's just generational. What my parents dealt with, I didn't have to deal with. What I'm dealing with, my son won't have to deal with it, but he'll have to deal with phases of it, because The only thing that is constant is change. But everything sort of stays the same unless you have the right people to make it better. Now, I believe in the Bible. So I understand what is happening as I see it unfold. I am not so heavenly minded that I'm no earthly good. I recognize that I must do all I can and occupy according to the word until he returns. So I'm going to do everything that I can within my power to help make it right. The reason that we're able to talk like we are is because there were those who went on before us that sacrificed and made it better for us. Each generation will face its challenges, will have its problems, will have its progress. That's just a systematical element if you look back through the generations. That being said, we'll get through this if it's the will of God. And I do believe that tough times don't always last, but tough people do, because there's a song that says, I'm so glad that trouble don't last always. We will have to get through it, but we'll have to get through it based on the system that's in place. You must have to admit, Mr. Dyson, is it Dawson or Dyson? I apologize.
Dawson.
It's Dawson,
Yeah,
right?
no worries. Yes, Dawson.
Mr. Dawson.
Uh-huh.
I think that if you look back where you were 20 years ago, I think you will admit that you have made more progress within the 20 years than you did before. So everything has a progression, is what I'm saying. And so I'm going to let my brothers and my cousin jump in on it as well, but I see it as a continual evolution of progress, understanding that challenges come with progress. That's just the way things are. But within that, you can make progress. Now, Jesus couldn't change. He walked the earth, and all he did was raise the dead, open people's eyes, and they still thought that he was not who he said he was. So you can only do what you know that is right to do for those that you come in contact with, and then hopefully, again, the other people will join that right movement, and things will change. But I'll let my brothers comment as well. Go ahead, cousin.
I just want to jump in on that real quick. It's poignant that you make those points, because we talked about education yesterday, and some of the comments that we talked about were in regards to, should we bring religion back into education? Because there is something not specifically about any particular religion, but the fact of just having religion in the school system brings back morals and better understanding to children on how to treat each other. Because the basis of the majority of religions is about treating each other in good manners and being respectful to each other and helping each other to thrive and do better. Do you think that religion should come back into the school education to help transition some of the things that are happening now to maybe promote a better community and better families and kids?
Cousin John? Yeah, go ahead, Cousin John.
Absolutely. The answer, as expressed in our song, "We Can't Go On This Way," the answer being Jesus Christ and love. That is the key. God is love. Whenever you take out the one who created the heavens and the earth out of the picture, you are left with the resolutions of man. And therefore, our resolutions alone, aside from God, will not get to that place of harmony, will not get to that place that God has desired for us. And that is a place of love. They asked Jesus Christ what was the greatest of the commandments. And he said to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your soul, your mind, your very being. And then second unto it is to love your neighbor as yourself. So this love for God and the love for one another has to be. Otherwise, you would get the very opposite of that. And that is a distress distrust in God, a lack of faith, a moving away from what God has desired for humanity and what God has desired for us. We move away from that when we take God out of the picture. When we've taken God out of the schools, we even take God out of our families. We, at some point, and I would make reference to our black brothers and sisters when we were coming up, religion, or shall I say church, Jesus Christ was very center in our families. We respected that. We have moved away from that. We've moved away from the Word of God, and so therefore, what are we left to? We're left to the other end of the spectrum. Paul indicated to the Ephesians that we battle not against flesh and blood. And here's what's going on with the racism, killings all over everywhere, within the race, outside of the race, or whatever. All of this that is going on, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers of the darkness of this world, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. There's a battle going on, and that thing has been going on since we failed in the Garden of Eden to trust God and to do what God had indicated that we do. And so we fell from that in listening to another voice other than the Creator, that voice being the enemy, Satan himself. So there are two sides of this whole thing, and it's not just this generation, but it's been going on forever, and it will go on until Christ comes back. Now, this thing that we're going through is a snowball effect, starting from the Garden of Eden, going on and on and on, getting worse and worse. So what was the answer to it? Jesus Christ, the Lamb slain before the foundation of the earth. That was the answer. Christ himself said, the thief, watch this now, the thief cometh but to steal, kill, and destroy. Look at what is happening in the world today. That has been going on. Nothing new. As my cousin Melvin indicated, nothing new under the sun, the wise one would say. Solomon would say, nothing new under the sun. So what we're experiencing is the activity, the power of the thief to kill, steal, and destroy, which is opposite of what God has for us, which is what Jesus said, the thief cometh but to steal, kill, and destroy, but I have come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. So yes, the answer to this is that we need to, for some, get back to the realization of Jesus Christ in our homes, in our families, in our schools, or get to that place of accepting Christ into your lives, getting to the Word of God, getting back to the Bible, studying it to see what it has for you, because the Bible, all of these things will pass away, but God's Word will stand. God's word will stand. So whatever is written in the Word of God, that's what's going to be. We bring no new prophecy, but just that what is in the Word of God.
So
allow us to get back to that place.
So if we use the Bible, and I'm a Christian, if we use the Bible as a premise, as a blueprint as to what has happened and what will happen, how can we use what is in the Bible that we could use today to undo this evil of what's happening to us in America, to undo the racism, to undo discrimination, to undo the failing school systems and the poor communities? Where can we find in the Bible something that we can apply today to undo what is being done so we can stop it now? So maybe the next generation, like you said, won't have to go through this particular process.
Yeah, because I'm listening to what you're saying, and if love is the answer, then and finding Christ is the answer, then those who prop up the corporation of white supremacy have no interest in finding Christ. They have no interest in loving me. And so, because of that, much like Brother George Floyd, America has its knee on the neck of the black American. And so, to Diane's point, if we see that, and we've seen it for all of the generations that I've been alive, all of the decades that I've been alive, where do we turn to be able to resolve that in the immediate? Because this next generation of children are suffering what I call on this show social disorders. They are suffering from what do I call it, Diane? Environmental or socially transmitted diseases. They suffer from microaggressions and macroaggressions, and all of those things are impacting in a negative way their ability to ascend to greatness. And so, where do we find in the Word, in the pages of the Bible, how to deal with that, how to put an end to it? Because I agree, we can't go on like this.
So let me, and then I'll let some of the other brothers, let me just say this. You can never put spilt milk back in a bottle or toothpaste back in a tube. You can't go backwards. You can only go forward. Because yesterday is a cancer check, and tomorrow is a promissory note. Today is cash on hand. We got to spend it wisely. What am I saying? Each generation will have its challenges as they progress. Now, it talks about, as you know, I don't know if it's biblical. I'll let the biblical scholars help me out with this one, but it says, I've heard this say all my life, each generation will get weaker and wiser. Weaker and wiser. We have, the reason that you all saw George Floyd murdered was because of the technology that Jesus didn't have. So we can use the same elements to accentuate the positiveness. Here's how we change things. We change things by showing more positive than negative, but we gotta do positive, and so we can show. Now the media gets, and it does, spin stuff. We know the media spin stuff. Both sides, you can say what you want, they do. But the truth of the matter is, if I shoot somebody, I shot somebody.
Correct.
If I report it, I report it. Now, to your point, we survived. Our forefathers survived. This generation, unless God decides to come back before they get through, they will survive. But they will also survive with its challenges, because the Job said, man that is born of a woman is but of a few days full of trouble. So you go on doing what you're supposed to do earthly by doing what you're supposed to do. We have laws that we've got to follow. Okay? We have, but we should, those of us who know right should help change those laws and put people in places. And again, you can never, ever change everybody. I mean, Jesus couldn't while he walked the earth, working miracles. But we do know there are more good people. There are more good people than bad people. I believe with all my heart that there are more good people than bad people. But it's the bad that always gets the highlights, gets the sizzle reel, gets the emotional elements going. But at the end of the day, I believe you will find more good people than there are bad people. So what's the message? We got to give them information, education, and they'll be motivated at that point to do what is right. But they first got to be informed, and you got to inform them where you are. And so the answer was, the question was about, should we put it back in school? Well, let me just say this. Some children never knew how to pray or never heard a prayer until they came to school, because we used to always start the class off with prayer. In their homes, they never had parents that prayed. So I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with putting prayer back in school. Prayer is in order anywhere. When the nation is in trouble, what does the president and Congress ask the nation to do? Pray. So if it's good enough for the nation, it'll be good enough for our school system. I think that was your question, and that's my answer.
Thank you. So another question I have, and anybody can answer it. In regards to, because I know you guys are older than me. I'm just in my mere 40s. What?
I think we just called, guys. I think she just called us old.
Yeah, I think she did too.
Look, I called you guys wiser, much wiser than me. What do you see in comparison to when you were my age to what you see now in America, in Black America, that has stayed the same and that needs to change? Because a lot of people talk about, oh, we've progressed since Martin Luther King, we've progressed. But from my point of view, from where I stand, and I used to be an elected official in my town, I don't see the progression where it should be. I see us moving backwards. I think social media, as you talked about before, in relationship to what Jesus knew and social media, I think social media has now made it more profound about how backwards we are still and moving backwards and haven't progressed. I mean, they talk about different industries. I'm in the insurance industry. There's still very few Black people in the insurance industry that dominate corporate decisions, let alone women. So what do you see from then to now that needs improvement, and if you have any solutions, that things that we should be working towards and focusing on instead of, nonsense?
Okay, I'm going to kick it off, then I'm going to let my other brothers jump in. Yes, ma'am, I've seen progress. Because if we hadn't seen progress, you and I wouldn't be talking like we're talking right now on the media that we, at one point, were not even allowed to be part of. So has there been progress? Absolutely. But the largest room in the world is the room for improvement. So we have to continue to improve as we go forward. But yes, there's been progress, and I'll let Commander, why don't you talk a little bit about what you see politically? Scotty, why don't you talk a little bit about when you and I were at a predominant all-white high school before immigration even started, and then sort of give them what you all believe from a progression perspective has occurred. Commander.
Yeah, but since Scotty haven't said anything, I think it's more important that he give the review of when you all went to a predominant all-white school. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, well, hey, you hadn't said anything either, so I was going to let you talk. But anyway, while I'm speaking, thank you for the invitation, Brother Eric.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, when I was coming along, and of course Melvin was before me, at a predominantly white school, but there was only my first cousin, Albert, and myself, who decided to go out to play football. And this was back in the 60s. There were only two of us. And of course, they didn't want us out there. But we would, thank God, we had God-given talent. So I said to my cousin, this is the only place we can hit them and not get in trouble.
There you go.
I was a little bit bigger than my cousin was, but boy, he was very radical. And so anyway, I said we're gonna have to stick together, and we earned their respect because of how we were on the field with them. And 2 years later, that class became the first undefeated football team that they had ever had. And 2 years after that, I became the captain of the football team. So in that regard, we went through a lot, having to sit on the back of the bus, that type of thing. Melvin went through it as well, as I'm sure as John did,
Yes.
So there was a lot that happened during that time, and we have to keep in mind, thank God for technology, because we don't know how many black people have been killed and murdered because we didn't know about it, we didn't have no cameras, and they would pull you up on the side of the road back then.
Well, let me ask you a question, because you guys were talking about prayer in school, right? And I think I said in the show that we talked about that, Diane, that you can do these things in school, but you got to deal with home, right? You got to be able to fix these, what's broken in the homes. But with regard to church, prayer, all those things, I talked about an article that I read that said that the black church, since the mid-'80s, has received through tithes and offerings some $480 billion. And I remember having Bishop Blue on my show about 2 years ago. And I asked him, I said, so if you look and say the black church has received over $480 billion through tithes and offerings, what has been the return on that investment for the black community? So prayer in school, I'm not going to argue that, right? If it helps, it helps, whatever helps. But I'm looking, saying this institution, because we talked about this institution, we talked about that prayer and a fearing of God and all of those things existed. I remember growing up, and man, my grandmother was a deaconess, my grandfather was a deacon. He used to drag me to those early morning prayers, man, that were, I don't remember what they called them, but you could feel something in the room. These deacons, man, were on their knees and crying and praying. It was coming from the very inner being. So I understand that, but in the end, these churches, I fear that they failed. That the return on the investment to the community, investing again almost $480 billion from mid-'80s to now, there's been very little return on that.
Okay, I gotta help you, Brother Dawson. I gotta help you with that one.
Yes, sir.
Because I'm a capitalist with a conscience. I've been in corporate America since I was 19 years old, starting at NASA Space Center, and I've worked for the largest corporations in the world. And I'm not being braggadocious or supercilious when I say this, but you're looking at it the wrong way.
Okay.
The return on the church, you got to understand what the church was established for.
Okay.
They are not a for-profit organization. The church was designed to be a soul-saving station. Now, give me a minute, I'm going to bring it on to you. I understand that the totality of man is mind, body, and soul. So a lot of the churches have gone away from what the real mission of the church is. Corporate America is about profit, not people. See, if the churches were really about their mission, you would see the return. And let me show you where you would see the return. You would see the return on the social, economical element, because if they do better, everything else gets better.
Yes.
If they look, we grew up on a farm, but yet we had to sweep our dirt yard like it was concrete. So when you got people that understand how to take care of what they have first, then they know how to take care of us. But you can't take care of somebody else when you ain't take care of yourself. What I mean by that is the church has done its job, the real church. But every time I see a shackle that says a lawyer, that doesn't mean he really understands how to practice law. Everybody that has a church sign on it
may not necessarily be doing what the church was called to do. So you got to first understand the mission of what the church was really set up to do. Now, that being said, yes, the church does have programs that have fed and have done it without any government money. And I'm talking not philosophical, I'm talking practical. My brother Bishop L.N. Forbes established two of the biggest churches in our conference, right there in East Orange, New Jersey, now that the street is named after him. And you said Bishop Blue, who is now the pastor there, he served, and Commander was there, served free, breakfast free before people even thought about serving, and they did it with the money from the church. So you can't, no more than you can lump all corporations, all lawyers, all presidents in one bucket. You can't put all churches in one bucket. But the real investment and return on the interest of what a real church is supposed to do, those who are real churches are really seeing that return, because at the end of the day, you may build great cathedrals, large or small. You may build skyscrapers, grand or tall. You may even conquer all the failures of your past. But only what you're going to do for Christ is going to last, because everything else fails, my brother. That's the return of the church now. Okay?
Amen.
Now,
Speak on that.
Okay? So, and then I'll let the others jump in. So let me say, I don't want you to get confused, Brother Dawson, when you say you haven't seen the return of investment. The return of investment on the real church is what the real church is established to do.
John, and I have seen the return of that, and we will not see the full return until that day of our Lord. And we are called, yes, Melvin, as you've indicated, to be about the gospel of Jesus Christ, to be about the resolution, which is what we have, we sing about in the song, We Can't Go on This Way, regarding accepting God's gift, His only begotten Son. And when you receive Him, you start to love everyone, loving yourself, loving your family, loving even loving your enemies, which is something that is the basic problem right now. There is not love. There is not care for one another. So our resolution is different from the way the world would resolve a situation. Case in point, when Jesus said you are to love your neighbor as yourself. Christ said to love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that, hate you, and pray for them that even despitefully use you. So that is our force. That is what we do. Now, I do see the church extending itself in the community. I am a pastor. We see this, and we are focused on loving God, spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, and loving our neighbors as ourselves. We are part of the community. So therefore, we act and we deal within the community in love, in care for the community. We minister in the prisons, go to the prisons, and various things like that. But we are about the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the focus, and that focus is what would bring about a resolution to all of the problems and all of the situations that we are experiencing. We have come a long ways. We have come a long ways. Still got a long ways to go. Still major room for improvement. But Melvin, you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail right on the head.
Well,
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have another question. We just got finished. We have monthly books that we choose and we read each month with our listeners. And we just got finished reading When Affirmative Action Was White by Ira Katz Nelson. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with it, but the book talks about how systematic laws were put in place by government to discriminate against black people, through the GI Bill for military, when it came to housing, when it came to our education system, through the GI Bill as to who got educated and who wasn't educated. What do you think are some of the things? Do you think that as black people today, that we don't pay enough attention and we're not politically educated enough to know what's going on and how to make changes in our community? Because if you look at the book and you understand politics, everything is governed by politics. Do you think we're sometimes, we say too often, I don't do politics, and we let other people deal with stuff when we should be more informed about what's going on so that we can vote, have more educated votes? And anybody can answer.
Yeah, let me take that. Let me start it off by saying this. You are absolutely correct. That's why my brother Bishop Forbes said, don't be so heavenly minded that you know earthly good. You are absolutely right. There have been laws that have clearly, well, let me just give you a real example. About 2 months ago, the Congress passed a $3 trillion stimulus bill. $3 trillion, not billion, trillion. Now, the African American population is only about 13.4%, according to the census. If you gave the African American community $100 billion, that's only 2.5% of $3 trillion. Now, unless somebody on this phone can tell me where some of that money is, because I haven't seen it.
Right.
So somehow, somewhere, that money has failed to get into our communities, which means we have to hold those that are supposed to be representing us as the elected official perspective accountable. So yes, we should be involved. You're not even alive until a politician signs your birth certificate, and you're not dead officially until a politician signs your death certificate. So yes, we need to be more informed, and we've got more ways to be informed than ever before. We just have to take advantage of the information that is available. But at the same time, I know that everybody's busy. So you have to prioritize. I've always been one to believe that you listen to the news. Now, the greatest news is the good news. That's the gospel. But at the same time, because I'm so not heavenly minded, no earthly good, I have to live here. And as Jesus said, occupy until I return. Because when he gets back, we ain't going to have to do nothing else, because when he comes back, he's going to take care of everything else. But we have to occupy until he comes. So we have to understand the system. And I've always said, if you don't learn how to use the system will always use you. So the answer to your question is yes, we should be more involved. You pay your taxes. The greatest asset of America has been the African American. When you really look at it. During slavery time, they took us in the South, we took care of the agriculture. In the North, they took us in the North, and we took care of the factories. So for 400 years, America has had a great asset called the African American.
Yeah.
So yes, we should be involved.
So let me ask you a question.
We should be involved.
So let me ask you a question, because what we say, and I believe this, I proudly say that I am a foundational Black American, an American descendant of enslaved Africans, and I want America to pay reparations, right? So when we talk about all of the things that are going on, yeah, America has had the Black American as the commodity to its wealth and power. And that has not changed. In fact, and somebody put in his thread, that $3 trillion that you just talked about was just another major transference of wealth. The racial wealth gap. There is 1/10 the wealth in the Black home as there is in white homes. And that is because of structural and systemic racism. the income gap, the education gap, all of those things are widening. And I heard somebody say, and I wrestle with this because I'm looking at data. So when we have a conversation and say that we've made progress, I hearken back to what Martin Luther King said in 1952, where he said that there was something majorly wrong. That in this country, you have 40 million poor people. And now let's move forward to 2020. We're still fighting the poor people's campaign, right? An article that I reference frequently on this show says that, coming out of Forbes magazine, said that by 2053 there will be zero wealth in the black community. Zero. Had a gentleman on the show a couple weeks ago. He said, Eric, he said, we have to pay attention as foundational black Americans to understand who and what America is and how brutal it is. Look at what it did to the Native American. And we're on that trajectory. He said, we are on the verge of an apartheid state here. How do we stave this off? Because it's coming like a tsunami.
So let me help you, because I'm a solutionist. Remember, I told you there's an answer to every problem.
Yes, sir.
Now, because I have developed all my life systems that birth industry, that create jobs, I listen to data, but I don't buy into data. And the reason is because the source of the data is always questionable for me. Now, that being said, I recognize a couple things. Number one, my parents did own more than this generation with all our PhDs, master degrees, and the whole 9 yards. But that's because the blueprint has changed. The picture of 1952, when you took a picture of 1952 and take a picture of 2020, is a different picture because you got different things going on. So you can't compare the past with the present. What you got to do is take the experiences of the past, coupled with the opportunity of the present, to meet the challenges of the future. Let me tell you what I mean. There's absolutely no way you're going to sit here and tell me in 2020 that we couldn't stop what you just read and said that should be happening in 2052. Are you kidding me? You can't even tell me what's going to happen on by Friday of this week. And you're talking about 2052. Let's not talk about 2052. Let's talk about 2020 and what we can do now to make a difference, economically, politically. So to that end, I have started something, and I don't mind saying it because it's going to be public here in a minute, all over the news.
Okay.
With the National Baptist Convention that has 9.8 million members. When this pandemic first hit, I started talking about it in January. I sat down and wrote my congressional members, which includes Steny Hoyer, Pelosi, and all of them, and I told them that this pandemic that was coming was going to be devastating to America based on the data that I had received, but more importantly, it was going to be more devastating to the African American diaspora. And I can show you in writing, I put it to them, and this was even before people even started talking about it. This was January, February time frame. In February, our president said there was a host that the Democrats were, I won't even get into that nonsense or his, for whatever reason, why he thought what he said, but it just wasn't true. So I went back to the National Baptist Convention. I serve as the Chief Strategy Officer for the National Baptist Convention. They asked me to put together, they said, okay, Mel, you always say you're a solution. Come up with a solution for this. I said, okay. So I put together what is known as a faith-based business initiative, which means I looked at what the power of the church was, and I looked at what the power of business was, and said, let's see if we can come to a plateau of understanding so we can rise to a peak of unification, a solution. So here it is. God gave me a strategy because success is 80% strategy, 20% operational. Once you've got the right strategy, you can operationalize anything. And again, it goes back to remember now, I'm a systems guy. So I look at systems in a very practical way. So here you got 9.8 million Baptists that are tied pairs. I brought them to the table. I brought this business community, both large and small, including UPS. I won't name drop, let's just say, because you'll see the press release coming out soon.
Okay.
But the bottom line is this. The pandemic ain't going nowhere. In fact, we're going to get some more, just so you understand. So the system that I have put and have designed is called pilization. PIELAZATION. Now, before you Google it, don't worry about it. I made it up and trademarked it, so I own that word because God gave it to me. But it stands for portable, integratable, and expandable. Everything in the 21st century and going forward will have to have a portable, integratable, and expandable template because everything changes so fast. So you've got to have something that will create stability while you create predictability. So where am I going now? So the two biggest pandemics of America for the last 400 years has been healthcare and economical empowerment. Those are the two biggest, right? Now, the reason healthcare is because if you have your health, you got your wealth. If you ain't got your health, you can't get to economic empowerment because you're sick. So how do we change that dynamic first? The whole healthcare system that we currently have in the 20th century will not help us in the 21st century. So this new model, and I won't get into all the details because it's too long, is going to change how healthcare will be delivered using the hospitals, but more important, using the facilities of the churches to do three things: to do mental assessment and COVID testing and other pandemics, to create a whole new industry for new jobs, and at the same time, hopefully, to bring people together in a way like they've never been brought before. So it's the same thing that Warren Buffett was trying to do with Walmart. Warren Buffett tried this exact same model back about 5-6 years ago. He couldn't make it work. The difference between what Warren Buffett is trying to do and what we're trying to do is we got Jesus in the church. That's the only difference. But it is a strategy that is going to create, again, an industry that is going to create jobs. So in terms of what's going to happen in 2054, I know I won't be here unless God works a miracle, because as the young lady already done called us old, she already said we're old. So,
No, I said you were wise. Don't say that. and let me just reiterate. Let me reiterate how smart you are, because when you're talking about the healthcare system and how that has to expand, my mom was the first and only black president of a hospital in Jersey City, and they were working on and had worked with other school systems about bringing in healthcare systems into the school system so that they could treat children and families in the community and bringing back community schools, because she knew then, and she's now deceased, she knew then that the system in the way it was working was not going to be able to sustain itself, and nor would people be able to, like you said, have the economic wealth to keep moving forward. So you're right on point. Maybe she sent it to you from heaven. I don't know.
Well, I know this. I know God gave me the vision. And again, remember now, since age 19, I've been developing systems that birth industries that create jobs. And so, for whatever reason, God has me here at this point in time. I ain't smart enough to know everything about everything, but I know that this came from Him, because it wasn't even on my radar. But now, and I will drop this to you, it is so good that we just met with NIH last week, and they think this may become the national system for the country. Now, I'm not trying to give you a scoop, Eric, so don't go with this yet.
All right.
But there is a press release that is going to come out that talks about, and again, the reason that I started with the African American community was because we were dying at an alarming rate more than anyone else. Now, when you're in the emergency room, when they say code blue, you're supposed to go to the person that's about to die to try to stabilize them. I didn't see nobody running, bringing, and trying to test us. In fact, there's still some of our communities that have not been tested. So my point being is that this whole system will be birthed, and a movement has started that is going to be inclusive of everyone, but driven by the African American community out of the National Baptist Convention. And I will give you this. If you go to NBC, the website, NBC, National Baptist Convention, IMIN.com, you can read about it on the website.
All right.
But we are going to create new industries, similar to what we did in the telecom industry. I helped create the telecom industry with MCI, Sprint, and AT&T. We had no cell phones when we created the telecom industry. We just had a broadband and narrowband frequency. But by creating the channel for the broadband and narrowband, now we've got cell phones, laptops, MP3s, we stream it, we do video, voice, and data.
Right.
So the same thing is going to be manifest out of this pilotization strategy that I came up with for the healthcare industry.
So let me ask you a question though. But how do we guarantee? So new industries will emerge. I understand that.
Right. Right.
But you have a deficit when it comes to undereducation of Black American children, right? And so in competing for these jobs that emerge in these new, these emerging sectors, they won't be qualified.
Yeah, you will. Let me tell you how you're going to be qualified. First of all, I just told you, the 20th century model that you have been accustomed to, forget about it. We're never going back to the 20th century way of doing business. It's going to be the 21st century. We have smarter, when I say smarter, I mean with the intellectual capital than I am. I'm just experienced. I'm going to use the young lady's words. She won't give us her name, Scott and John, so we can Google her.
I'm sorry, it's Diane. I think I introduced myself before you got on. It's Diane Marie Clemens. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Scotty, make sure we know her name so we can put on in there how she talked about us as old men. But anyway.
You're on his radar now, Diane.
Wait a minute, corruption, not my name.
So now she's saying her name. But so here's the thing. Listen, everybody has a role in this. Everybody has to do the role. We're not asking the mechanic to become the preacher. We're not asking the ball player to become the teacher. But we all have a role, and those roles are already clearly defined. I'm not saying let's tear up. Remember I said take the experience of the past, coupled with the opportunity of the present, meet the challenge of the future. What you do is you take those institutions that are already in place and modify them and redesign them, re-engineer them, just like the 8-track tape is no longer valid, the CD is no longer valid, the cassette's no longer valid, now they're streaming MP3. These young people in our educational system can take a cell phone and almost without even instructions, open it up, start using it before, and I'm talking about little 6-7-year-old young people. It's scary. And where do they get it from? They show, I still, when I get a cell phone, I still read the instructions. But see, everybody learns differently, Eric. And so this new generation, trust me, when we came along, and me and Scott and Haywood and John, we wanted to have an afro, but that wasn't going to happen in Will Scott, Sally Ann Farr's house. They said, now you can do anything once you get out of our house. But as long as you're in my house, you follow my rules. Which means we had to get our hair cut a certain way. We had to look a certain way. All these young people, it's not how you line up, it's how you wind up. And I tell people, so don't ever give up on a young person, because what you see is not where, that's their genesis, that's not their revelation, that's their beginning, that's not their end. Because if all of us had been judged by how we started, we'd be in trouble. So yes, Eric, there will be educational opportunities. Now, Eric, don't expect to be able to catch up with 400 years. That's impossible.
Right.
That time has passed. So what you can't do is, you can't catch up when you're 400 years, but here's what you can do. You can continue to make progress, and we have. Has it been the kind of progress that we all wish had been better? Absolutely not. But has it been progress? Absolutely.
But I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, right now, as we're speaking right now, right, policies are being propped up, put in place, legislation is being fought over to further segregate schools, to limit opportunities for foundational Black American children, and give advantages to their white counterparts. So while that's happening, whatever is happening in terms of creating systems that create jobs, that create, my fear is that without political power, right, we won't be able to effectuate the necessary change to give those Black American babies opportunities to be competitive. And so, like that, when I listen to your song, I'm telling you, it resonated with me in so many different ways. Because I'm going, we can't go on like this. You know, I'm looking at, we talked about this on previous shows. You know, you've got folks tearing down statues now. You got them painting Black Lives Matter murals all over the place. You got them doing all of these things, which to me are not going to move the needle in the metrics that matter the most. And that is, at the end of the day, is this Black American child given the same opportunity in terms of education. Look, I can tell you, my children, they went to almost all white schools, right? And there was racial tracking there. I had to fight for it. I moved one of my children out of that school into Montclair, which is supposed to be one of the most diverse communities around, right? But if you go into the school, into the advanced placement classes or the college prep classes, those were the most segregated classes ever. And you're looking going, wait a minute, how do you have so many Black kids in the school, but almost none of them in these AP classes in college prep? So they are actively working against us. And so no matter what systems...
Let me do this, because I hear in your voice the frustration that you feel. But let me just share this.
Well, it's fear. It's like at this point, it's fear. It's almost like Noah, who knew the flood was coming, and he was telling people, get on the ark. I'm saying a tsunami is coming. It's coming, and we're ill prepared, and we can't go on this way.
So you're right. We can't go on this way, and that's why I wrote the song. So listen to this. The more that we can show people the way, and when I say the way, it may not, there's a lot of different ways I can come from Washington to New Jersey. I can fly, I can catch a train, I can drive. And if I'm bold enough, I can ride a bicycle. Okay? My point being is, everybody doesn't get to the same place at the same time. Even biblically, you can read, the Bible tells you that. We will always not be able to, utopian, my cousin John told you that part of the return on the investment won't be recognized until we leave here. Because if you're looking for utopia, this is not the place to look for it. However, it is the best place that I've found so far. God bless America, okay? Because everything that is wrong with America can be fixed by everything that is right with America if Americans stand up for what's right. Now, no generation has always had to deal with its issues. I don't care Go back and look at. I'm a history buff, so I can tell you historically. Again, don't try to catch up. If you got a guy that's running 400 yards in front of you, I used to run track, and you 400 yards back, and ain't but 100 yards left, the chances of you catching him is going to be pretty slim and none. However, progress to get to that finish line, which is what I want to get, will be there. Your young people, your children will not experience what you've experienced and see what you're seeing, because they're going to look at it through a different prism, a different set of eyes than you ever thought of. I can tell you, my son, when I started talking to him about a black and white TV, he looked at me like I was from Mars. He'd never seen a 45 record, or that it's cultural. So each culture will manifest progress, it'll manifest challenges, it will manifest progress. But with all that, so will those, because a rising tide lifts a lot of boats. What we are going to, in the next 10 years, is something called a blended society. There will always be those who see prejudice. Look, you can't fix what you didn't create and repair what you didn't break. Racism was not formed or found by African Americans because we didn't know what it was. So a few bad folks decided they wanted to control everybody else and say, let's call this what it is. But then there were those who, as Martin Luther King said, truth crushed to the earth will always rise. So sooner or later, truth is going to rise. And we're seeing the truth rising. I never thought I'd see an African American as a president. Come on, that's progress. Was it the kind of progress that we thought we would see? No, but it's something that we didn't think we would see. Okay? And I'm with you, Eric, when you say a lot of these statues being torn down. Look, if that's what people feel they want to do, they should do it in a way that is legally and lawfully by that community. Okay? Now, I'm more on the side of a solution which empowers us economically so that we can live better. That's my focus.
So in terms
but
of the
that's not
solution
everybody's
that,
focus, but
so in terms of solution that empowers us economically so that we can live better, I said earlier in the show
yes.
that that I 100% support and fight for reparations. Do you believe that America owes the foundational black American, the American descendant of enslaved Africans, reparations?
I call it recovery.
Okay.
Versus I think reparation. Because once a word has been used and people don't like it, then you got to use a different word that will give you the same results. Okay, let me give you an example. Stealing, embezzlement, both the same. Cocaine, crack. Okay, both the same when the foundation. So I like the word recovery, and I think you will see from a congressional perspective, you're going to hear that word more than reparation, because reparation has a connotation to it that people just don't like for whatever reason. Yeah. Now, if all those people die off, you know how.
Well, they did the same thing with global warming, right? It used to be global warming, and then they changed it to climate change, right? Global warming, yeah, global warming was not palatable. Yeah, but what I'm getting at is this: so you agree that the foundational black American or the black American, I don't use African American, I say black American, that our condition is a direct result of intentional racial policies and structural racism and violence, and that we need to, if you want to use the word recover, that we need to, that there needs to be recompense, that it needs to be made right. There was a woman, Marianne Williamson, who was one of the presidential candidates, said on a debate stage, she said, there is a moral turbulence. And until this country reckons with that nothing is going to be resolved. That it has to be an honest dealing with what it has done and continues to do. See, it's not even that they've stopped, right? As we speak right now, they're continuing. We talked about the $3 trillion, right? It was a massive transfer of wealth.
Okay, but let's cut to the chase. Since you want to go there, let's cut to the chase. Let's talk about holding people accountable who we've elected.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
You and I.
Hello.
Okay, if you want to get to right where it's supposed to be,
yes, sir.
Let's hold people accountable.
I couldn't agree with you more.
If those people who are supposed to be representing us are not doing what they're supposed to do, then vote them out and put people in. Because you can't do it, and you got to do it you got to do it locally, regionally, and nationally. You can't just wait and vote once every 4 years and get involved and think that's going to change.
Yeah.
You got to do it locally, regionally, nationally.
Yes, I love you. I love you for saying that. You're right. You're 100% right. And we say that all the time. We say at the end of the day, you're accountable, right? The voter's accountable. And when we're talking about the need for change, and prior to you guys coming on, what we were talking about was that with all of the issues that are facing us, that were on the national stage, talking about the condition of the Black American, specifically as relates to COVID-19, and that we, because of preconditions, were dying, were more likely to die than anybody else. And all of those people that you talk about that we've elected and we continue to elect, and in fact we voted for them in this primary, none of them have fought for us. I agree. I'm telling you, your anthem, that song is an anthem. We can't go on this way. We can't go on.
And listen, let me just say this, Eric, because I only got 10 minutes left. I apologize. My brothers can stay on.
Oh no, we only got 10 minutes in the show, so it's perfect. No, we only got 10 minutes left in the show, Commander. So this is perfect. And I want to say, I think this is a great conversation. Yeah. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
But this is just a comma. We can take this up and have a weekly conversation on this. If y'all look, I know Scotty and John and Commander got a lot more to add than I just happened to, because you're talking about the song. But we have always been advocates. If you look up the Forbes family, you'll see the DNA of our family is religious base, number one, advocacy, number two, and entrepreneurship, number three. Those are the real three pillars. Say again?
No, go ahead.
I said those are the three pillars of the DNA of the Forbes family, because our great-grandfather was killed by the Ku Klux Klan for preaching the gospel. So that DNA is just in us. Even if we, look, God saw our end before we knew about our beginning. The reason we are on this conference call with you today, because he looked down through the futuristic archives of intestinal fortitude and saw that we would be here during this time. So I don't believe there's no accidents. I believe that God brings things at a time that he wants to be brought. I do believe that we have a responsibility to do what we must be accountable for, and he's going to hold us accountable. So if we do those things, then that's all we are required to do justice, love, mercy, and do all we can, the good we can while we're here. And then after we go, hope somebody picks it up. But look, let my brothers jump in and say some things, John, because I think I've said enough.
Eric.
Yes, sir.
Let me say this, and we've been talking about how to make things better in the world.
Yes.
The basic sin of mankind is our selfishness.
I agree.
And John touched on this early on. All through the Bible, you will find people in leadership, kings, prophets, who did not do what the Lord told them to do. Now you have earthly wisdom and you have godly wisdom. Godly wisdom brings peace, joy, and contentment. Now, the Bible teaches us that there is a way that seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof is the ways of death.
Excuse me
Now,
one second.
we
I'm going to
know-
ask you guys to mute the rest of you guys to mute your phone. There's some background noise. Thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Now, we know that the world is a very dark place full of sin, evil, and temptation. And this is the place that entices individuals to forsake God in favor of material pursuits. Now, we've been talking about how to be successful down here on this earth. How good would the world be if we also, from the spiritual side, think how to improve this earth? Not just the material, because we spend a lot of our time trying to be successful on this world, but there's got to be a balance there. You know, we can't leave God out. We should include Him in everything that we do. Yeah, vain belief is no belief at all. We must possess faith and not just profess it. And I'll let John jump in on that.
And before John says something, can I make a quick statement?
Go ahead.
I agree 100% with the entire show. And the Bible says, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all else will be added unto you. What we have done is we have now become conformity to greed, to money. We search for that success, but it's not success by what God would consider success. It's success what the society believes success to be. And speaking from a man who was on that trail, you know, that is a very hollow and empty success. And the Bible says, what good is it to gain the whole world, but to lose your entire soul? And that's what a majority of our country has given up to be. Lovers of money, greed, power, wealth, material possession, which do nothing for you when you're dead. And the world loves its own. Exactly. And we've given, and in fact, we've even admired and put on pedestals people who have reached this pinnacle of earthly success. And those are the role models for a great deal of Americans. And it's what they strive to do. They write books about it. Yet, they fail to realize that, you know, we are our brother's keeper. And God only makes us strong and successful for a short time. And we can gain more money than we can ever spend in our lifetime. And the reason for that is so that we can help others. We forget to help others. There's no way in the world, in the richest, most powerful nation, that a company that does hundreds of billions of dollars a year pays zero in taxes, and my secretary pays more in taxes than I do, her employer. We have to make fundamental changes.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think this was I enjoyed the conversation. What I'm intrigued about and what I'd like to do, I don't know what your availability is. You talked about the tenets of your family, religion, entrepreneurship, and I forgot what the third one was.
It's advocacy.
And advocacy, right.
Religion, advocacy, and entrepreneurship.
Religion, advocacy, and entrepreneurship. So here, we focus on informing, engaging, and empowering. All of those things can certainly fit and work. One of the things that Diane and that's Vincent that you hear on the phone now, we've been talking about is creating a segment of the show where we're talking, because we do advocacy every day. Like we beat them over the head with a 2x4 trying to advocate for those who won't advocate for themselves. But we want to also begin to talk about entrepreneurialism, right? I think that that it is important, and I would love to tap one or all of you guys to if you can lend yourself to be a part of it, if not on a regular basis, whenever you're available, just to offer offer information up.
I'm on a talk show in New Jersey.
And of course to give some of your wisdom.
Yeah.
And also to give some of your wisdom, because I have learned so much, and you are all engaging and have so much. You're like a wealth of information, and the fact that we have to hang up, because I can sit and listen to you guys forever. And I hope my listeners feel the same way as well.
Let me say this, Diane, and then I'm done. Let me say this, and then I'm done. Godly wisdom, knowledge, and understanding can profit an individual in a greater way than material possessions that we are talking about. And I'll leave it at that.
Let me say amen. Yeah, Dr. Dalton, I just want to say before we get off the line, I know your time is expiring, that we, the original singers...
No, wait a minute. Just the time on the show is expiring, Commander. I'm good. I'm good health-wise.
We would just like to take this opportunity to really thank you for inviting us, and you and your co-hosts, and we hope again, if the Lord says so, that we'll be able to come back and talk some more.
And I hope so too. And again, guys, this is the original Sons, original Singing Sons. And the song, and I'll play it again, is we can't go on this way, and we can't. We've got to change. We've got to figure it out. And they offer a solution at the end of the song. So when you listen to it, give that some consideration. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for taking time out of your day to spend with us.
Real quick, gentlemen, how can people communicate with you, reach out to you? Email, Facebook, webpage?
This is Mel Force. I'm on Facebook, so they can follow me on Facebook, and also the website that I gave you, NBCImin.com, which again, NBCIMIN.com is another way. And Commander has my phone number, so if y'all need to reach me, he can always reach me.
All right, guys.
And once you reach one of us, you can reach all of us. You reach all.
Amen.
Thank you guys again.
Eric, thank you so much for your drive, and thank you for so much for this platform that you present.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Here's the song, guys. We can't go on this way. Thanks again. Have a pleasant day. Stay blessed.
Likewise.
Thank you. You too.
Okay,
We've got to find a better way. We can't continue to ignore the fact people are dying every day from using cocaine and crack. Even got a new drug, and it's called ice. If you take it, you will surely lose your life. I tell you, we can't go this way. We can't go this way. We're losing our children every day. We've got to find a better way. We can't continue to just turn our heads while people are lying in the street using it for a bed. The only time that you should look down on a man is when you're reaching down to give him a helping hand. I tell you, we can't go a dangerous game we play. We got to find a better way. These problems you say are nothing new. The question in your mind is, what are we going to do? 2 + 2 is 4, and 4 and 4 is 8. The answer is very simple. I'll tell you what it takes. Accept God's gift, His only begotten Son. When you receive Him, you start to love everyone. This is the answer for the world today. People, can't you see that love is the only way? Yes. No, no, on this way. We got to find. We got to find. Sisters and brothers, regardless of the color, we got to